Happy game day. You're watching the Giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. Tyler, Caroline here with you. As always, Tyler, what's up?
Not much. It's the road trip continues here for the Oilers, and finally the road trip gets easy for the Oilers as well.
Well, hopefully, right? We'll knock on wood. Let's recap quickly the Canes game. Obviously, we know that the Oilers lost 2-1. In my opinion, it felt like a weird game. Like, I felt like the first period felt like 3 hours long. We saw those glass repairs. Everyone had a minor heart attack when Connor McDavid, we thought that he either lost teeth or broke his jaw. You know, it was just like a weird game. It was on a Sunday morning. Yeah. However, despite the result, I do think that the boys competed. I do think that they took on a very, very good Carolina Hurricanes team. Couldn't get the result, and maybe not the worst performance by the Oilers, but we're at a point where they need to start winning games.
Yeah, it was an excusable loss for me. You went through a road trip where you played the three best teams in the Eastern Conference, and we talked about it. 2 points would have been satisfactory, 3 would have been preferred, and you would have been thrilled with 4 points. Well, they were on the lower end of that, but they still managed to pick up a win, so it wasn't a disastrous run by any means, especially when you look at how well they competed against Tampa Bay, how well Mikko played against Florida, and then again, they managed to keep up, and I'd argue push the pace a lot at 5-on-5 against Carolina, and that's just not something they were doing earlier in the season. If you go back through kind of the game logs here in the 5-on-5 scoring, earlier in the year, they would get caved consistently at 5-on-5. They were only winning games when the power play came through or when a goalie stood on his head. And you look to now, yes, they dropped a couple of games to Tampa and Carolina, but in each of those games, I thought they were the better 5-on-5 team. And you know what? Against Carolina, they were also the better 5-on-5 team, missing, 40% of their top 9 as well? They were missing a lot of important players in that game. So I'm fine with the loss. It's not, I wasn't one of those people, and I saw some on Twitter tweeting me being like, in a playoff race, you can't give up 2 points like that. But it's like, you're not going to win every game. And yeah, don't lose to Philly tonight. Don't lose to Chicago. Don't lose to Montreal. But if you're losing to Carolina and it's a 1-goal game, that's okay to me.
We have Jason in the Facebook chat saying giant L for the Oilers, but Tyler, I completely agree with you. I mean, I don't think it's a giant L. I do think we're in a position where we cannot be losing games. So these next few games coming up, they're must win for the Oilers. That's what happens when you can't find the result against, teams like the Panthers and the Hurricanes. Now you have to figure it out and win. And one conversation that we've talked about on this pregame show is the power play, and they were 0 for 4 against the Canes, and this is something that we've talked about. Like I said, at the beginning of the season, a lethal weapon for the Oilers. Now we're kind of in a position where it's not working, and it needs to start working because this Oilers team needs to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they do. And right now they're on the outside looking in. And I mean, we talked about how you don't necessarily want to have to get bailed out by your power play every game, but their power play right now has gone from, like you said, this lethal weapon to something that's actually sucking momentum out of their game. Like, again, against Tampa, if you get one more goal with the man advantage, you win that hockey game. Yeah. Against Carolina, if your power play finds a way to come through once, you're bringing that game to overtime. So it's super frustrating right now with the power play. We saw when Connor McDavid wasn't on the ice for that 4-minute man advantage, they couldn't even break the puck into the zone, never mind get a good scoring chance, right? So it's broken right now, and it's on Jay Woodcroft and that staff to figure it out. It's also on probably Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl a little bit to figure it out and fix this thing, because those two get paid a lot of money to dominate hockey games, and right now they're not doing it on the power play, which again should be a strength of this team. They're finding ways to win in spite of that, but it's really got to get going if this team wants to get on a heater down the stretch.
Absolutely. And then we have Alex Wolf in the comments, Ryan with another goal tonight. Let's talk about his performance. We know that the magic that he's brought to this team since Jay Woodcroft becoming the head coach. He had that hat trick against the Panthers, his first career hat trick, and then added another goal against the Canes, his 8th of the season, and just someone who's really had done an excellent job of helping the Oilers since Jay Woodcroft.
It is no secret that Derek Ryan was a fan of the coaching change. He's talked about confidence, guys lower in the lineup getting used, feeling like there's a chance for opportunity, and he's making the most of it right now. He started okay. His play just absolutely fell off a cliff, and it's gone back to a point now over the last kind of 15 games, I feel, where he was slowly building towards being a productive bottom sixer for the Oilers, and then, I mean, doubling your goal output in one weekend is never a bad thing. But like his numbers away from the goal scoring are really good as well. He's killing penalties. It's solid possession numbers in the bottom 6. they needed depth scoring. They're getting it from Derek Ryan. It's been a huge plus for them. The other thing I wanted to talk about was just the play of Mike Smith as well, because, I mean, obviously a lot of heat after the way he played against Tampa Bay. He goes back in for that game against Carolina. You can see the numbers there. .931 save percentage, 2 goals against. Best statistical game since February 15th against LA. That's a gem of a stat, Liam. Thank you very much. But that game, I still don't have a lot of confidence in Mike Smith. And I don't know if I'm alone in that or not, but you looked at how many times he would stop a puck and then be, looking over his shoulder. Where is it? Where is it? He's not confident. He was turning over pucks behind the net as well. I'm happy they are going back to Mikko tonight. Yeah. And if Mikko plays well, I think he's earned a chance to get another start against Chicago to finish off the road trip. The numbers were good for Mike Smith. I'm still not super confident in his ability to win games for the Oilers right now.
Yeah, 27 saves on the night for Mike Smith, but I completely agree with you. Although that performance was a kind of an improvement from his last couple, I don't have confidence in him like maybe I would have in the beginning of the season where he had a few hot performances. My trust is in Mikko Koskinen and, of course, the guy that we've talked about several times on this pregame show, Stuart Skinner. Yeah. But that's a topic for another day.
We talk about it every show. I mean, come on. We got to mix it in at least once, right?
One thing I do want to bring up is Brendan Perlini placed on waivers yesterday. 5 points in 23 games. However, back in January, we did see him have 3 goals in 4 games. After that, we didn't see him much, and when we did, his time on ice was very limited. I personally, and this is just my opinion, I would have loved to see Brendan Perlini have more of a chance, especially once he gained that momentum and confidence. And I also don't understand how he found out that news from his mom online, and I stand with Mama Perlini because that must have been a tough situation for Brendan Perlini to be in. However, I understand there's 2 sides of the coin, and people feel the way that they feel when you consider the fact that he's got 5 points in 23 games, but I just think that he deserved more of an opportunity to maybe see what he can do.
The tough part for me with a guy like Perlini, like the baseball analogy here would be he's a quad A player. He's good. He's too good to be in Bakersfield. But the issue is there's no spot for him on a skill line here. And even with the injuries, Fogle gets bumped up. Yamamoto's back in the lineup. You got McLeod playing with Ryan. Perlini doesn't kill penalties, and I think that will always hurt his ability to play in a bottom 6 role consistently. I like the offense that he brought. I agree. He probably deserved more of an opportunity at some points, but I also I can understand the case for him not being in the lineup right now, because in your bottom 6, you want guys who can kill penalties. You want guys who can be a little bit more reliable defensively than Perlini, and he just doesn't necessarily bring that. When he was in the lineup, I wish he would have gotten more than 5-6 minutes, because maybe it would have given him a better chance to prove himself. But this isn't one of those decisions that I'm necessarily throwing my arms up being like, this is going to cost them games because they don't have Brendan Perlini in the lineup. It's just they got skill in the top 6. In the bottom 6, I think you just need a bit of a different blend, and there's just simply not enough room for that guy. But I will say, for a guy who's on a 1-year deal, I think he's really earning himself probably another contract. I don't think it'll be in Edmonton next year, but I don't think this guy's NHL career is over. And I don't think that's something you maybe would have said if you were a follower of Perlini before this season when he was in Europe. Like, he actually has made the most of his opportunities.
Well, I think the fan base really supports him. I think everyone got behind Lamborghini Perlini. So whatever happens, obviously,
it's a great meme.
I know, it really was. I think whatever happens, we wish the guy well. And of course, I think everyone could agree that no one should find out that they're placed on waivers from their mom. And I think that is just something that the Edmonton Oilers should reflect about. Okay, anyways, key to the game, Leon, and this is from Michael. Key to the game, Leon needs to step up and watch the turnovers get on the score sheet. You know what? I'm glad that I read this, because I know that Leon does a really good job producing, and we know what Leon brings, but I don't feel like he's been himself the last few games. I don't know. I feel like Leon sometimes is a little off.
I don't have a ton of issues with the way Leon's playing right now. I think sometimes, you look at him and McDavid, and if they're not producing at that monstrous clip that we see them do a lot, then it can be easier to sour on him. He's got 11 points in his last 10 games, though. The area where I'll agree with you is, 1 goal in his last 5, and for a guy that's pushing for a Rocket Richard trophy, you would certainly love to see more, and I would tie this more back to the power play. I think him and Connor need to have a better killer instinct out there on the power play, and Leon Draisaitl, like I said, 1 goal in his last 5. He should be scoring 1 or 2 power play goals alone every 5 games. So I would like to see a bit more of a killer instinct from Leon Draisaitl, and maybe even consistent line mates might help with that as well. He's supposed to be playing with Kane and Yamamoto again. I've liked the look of those 3, so I'm hoping that maybe just a full game of those 3 staying together maybe that helps get Leon going a little bit.
All I know is yesterday I tweeted, if you guys were to start an NHL team tomorrow, would you rather have Draisaitl or Matthews on your team? And that tweet garnered over 150,000 impressions, and I will never open up that can of worms again. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
As someone who's covering both the Leafs and the Oilers, I can see where the Oilers fans' loyalty lays, but what an interesting conversation. So yeah, I'll never ask that again. But let's quickly talk about the fact that Yamo and Keith were on the ice this morning for their skate. An encouraging sign to see numbers back in the lineup, which, you know, obviously was kind of an issue heading into these last week of games. We were kind of depleted.
Yeah, we were, and it's great to see Duncan Keith come back, Philip Broberg. I mean, it was an okay run here, and I think having a young defenseman up for short spurts like that can be good for their development. It gets them a chance to learn some lessons and get a feel for what the NHL game is like. But having Duncan Keith back is big for this team. He's one of their better defensemen. He was playing some really good hockey before he went down as well, so I'm really hoping that this injury didn't force him into taking a step back or anything like that. But I'm happy to have Keith back. I think Keith and Bouchard could actually be a pretty good pairing for this Oilers team, and they're still going to go with the 11-7 approach, which I do like as well. Duncan Keith's first game back, you don't know what the legs are going to be like or anything like that. So keep Niemelainen in the lineup, keep Lagesson in the lineup, cycle those guys through. Maybe Keith will need a shift off here and there. Maybe you don't want him killing penalties tonight and you let Niemelainen and Lagesson handle that duty on the left side of the ice as well. Keith back, like the good veteran left-handed defenseman. I think that's really important for this team, and hopefully it helps them out.
All right, ready to move on to the opposition report? Because we got another game ahead of us today. This is obviously presented by Yeg Burger. Oilers are in Philly tonight taking on a not-so-good Flyers team. Tyler, they are currently sitting at the bottom of the Metro Division, and at this moment in time, 28th place team in the league. This is a team that the Oilers, I don't care how they do it, it needs to be a game where they come out with 2 points. The Flyers are coming off of a 2-1 win over the Caps, so you know that they're going to want to keep that momentum going, but this is a must-win for the Oilers because the playoffs are in the horizon, and these are games that, you know, they can't afford to lose.
The Flyers in their last 22 games are 3-14-5 and have been outscored by 32 goals in that span. This is not a group that's very good. Their special teams is incredibly lackluster. They're not that good at 5-on-5 either. And since January 1st, it's really been more of the same for them. Like they're bottom kind of 6, 7, 8 in the league when it comes to 5-on-5 shots for, bottom 6, 7, 8 in the league when it comes to 5-on-5 goals for. Liam's got the special teams numbers here since January 1st. Philly, they're 31st and I think like 25th in power play and penalty kill. And the Oilers aren't faring much better, so that is definitely a concern. Oilers 21st in the NHL on the power play since January 1st, 31st in PK. Edmonton needs to get their special teams going. We know the potential is there for Edmonton with the special teams. Tonight, they're getting a chance to go up against the Flyers team that is also terrible. So the Oilers need to use this as a bit of a launching pad to really get that power play going, really turn in a good performance on the penalty kill as well, and hopefully get those two aspects of their game rolling as they head down the stretch here.
All right, let's head into our lines for the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah, the lines for the Flyers. We'll start with this. They are an incredibly banged up group. Ryan Ellis out of the lineup. Sean Couturier, their best centerman, out of the lineup. Kevin Hayes, their probably second or third best centerman. He's also out of the lineup. Up front, though, these are the guys who are playing. It's Claude Giroux centering Joel Farabee and Cam Atkinson. I believe Atkinson is their leading scorer on the season. Scott Laughton with Travis Konechny and Oscar Lindblom. Derek Brassard with James Van Riemsdyk and Gerald Mayhew. 3 goals in his last 5 games. They're getting a bit of unexpected production from him. Patrick Brown with Isaac Ratcliffe and Zach McEwen. Zach McEwen known to drop the mitts every once in a while on that Flyers fourth line. The D pairings, Ivan Provorov with Justin Braun on the right side. Some people wondering if maybe Justin Braun is a potential deadline target for the Edmonton Oilers. Travis Sanheim with Rasmus Ristolainen, another defenseman on the Flyers who could very well be on the move before the deadline, which is just under 3 weeks away. And Keith Yandel with Nick Seeler is the third pairing. Carter Hart going to get the start for the Flyers in this game. 15 goals against in his last 5 starts. And actually, last season, what sunk the Flyers was goaltending. This year, goaltending is probably the reason they aren't somehow worse than they currently are. Carter Hart's having a good season. .911 save percentage, 2.90 goals against average on the year for the Sherwood Park product.
Oh, nice. Okay, so now let's head into the lines for the Edmonton Oilers, and what changes do we have there, Tyler?
First off, I like this from Electronic Jordan. Can we leave with Carter Hart on the plane with us? And wouldn't that just solve a million problems for the Edmonton Oilers? But for Edmonton, the top line, Warren Foegele is going to stay elevated on that top unit with McDavid and Hyman. Hyman had his goal streak snapped in the last game against Carolina. Evander Kane, Leon Draisaitl, Kyler Yamamoto. That is your second line. Ryan McLeod with Derek Ryan and Devin Shore. So D. Ryan looking to stay hot tonight. Kennedy's made some great life with Derek memes over the last couple days. Hilarious.
Okay, Kennedy for Oilers Nation. I know she's watching. She's just so talented and so funny. And when she did the Life with Derek, it brought me back to a nostalgic time in my life where I watched every single episode on the Family Channel, and she's just so creative.
So funny.
Best stuff. Okay, sorry.
All right. Benson and Malone. Brad Malone, 200th game in the NHL tonight. He gets the call up from Bakersfield. And this is one of those instances where I think having the Bakersfield head coach, Woodcroft, back up with the team could really pay dividends with some of these guys getting called up. You know, if Brad Malone was coming up and it was Dave Tippett running the bench, they're not familiar with each other. You know, Dave Tippett would have only coached Malone a handful of games in his career. Now you get Malone coming up, and Woodcroft knows exactly what this guy's about. He's coached him for a couple of seasons now down in Bakersfield. I'll be really interested to see how he handles the minutes for Malone and Benson. Maybe there's a bit of an uptick there, and exactly who's going to be riding shotgun with them and how they rotate through, because I think Brad Malone could actually play a bit of an important role, or a bit of a bigger role than some people expect in tonight's game. The D pairings for the Oilers: Nurse, Barry, Keith with Bouchard, Niemelainen / Lagesson with Cody Ceci is the third pairing there for the Edmonton Oilers. So again, that 7D approach, like I said, I like that one. I think you got to keep it rolling. I'd like to see Niemelainen get a few more minutes. I don't have a ton of time for William Lagesson to be playing more than him. But Niemelainen and Ceci actually has the potential to be a really, really good shutdown third pairing for this team.
Awesome stuff. All right, Tyler, where are you putting your money today? And what does it look like in our bet of the game presented by PointsBet?
Yeah, so the Oilers were underdogs every game so far on this road trip, but they're favorites tonight. -160 on the money line. The Flyers come in at +135. Edmonton in regulation, -105. Edmonton on the puck line, +155. So that's where I'm going with one of my two bets. I am taking the Oilers on the puck line, +155. Okay. The Flyers, if you take away empty netters, have actually had 1-goal games in 11 of their last 12, I think is the number, but they're actually prone to giving up a lot of empty netters. They get really aggressive with the goalie pull late in games. There's been a couple of times over this last stretch for them where they've been getting up 2 empty netters in a game. So I actually think the puck line is a safe play here for the Oilers at +155, and I'm also going to take a Warren Foegele goal. Why not? Take a shot. +330, playing on that top line with Connor McDavid. The Oilers really need him to get going in this hockey game. With Nuge out for, I don't think we see Nuge in the month of March.
I know, that's so scary for
us. I honestly think it'll be that long. So it'll be a while for Nugent Hopkins. If he does play, it'll be right at the end of the month. They need Foegele to get going. They need a guy like Ryan McLeod to probably get going as well. With no Puljujarvi, no Nuge, pressure on Foegele. He needs to start scoring. I say he does it tonight, +330. Good odds.
Awesome stuff. All right, let's get to our chats. Tyler, we got Alex Wolf in the Facebook chat saying his key to the game is knowing Philly always plays gritty hockey, so we need to get shots on net and win the battles in the front. Rebounds wins games. I agree that there needs to be physicality here tonight. 5 o'clock p.m. game too.
I know. I love a good 5 o'clock start. It's so nice.
We'll go to bed nice and early.
Scott Aroni said Derek Ryan's so hot right now. We touched on that. Chum744, what are your thoughts on putting Tyson Barrie on the wing? That's absolutely not happening. That's
Tyler's favorite player right now.
He drives me nuts on the blue line, so I will admit he would probably drive me like slightly less nuts if he was up front. I actually think his game against Carolina was one of his better games of the season, so hopefully Tyson Barrie is starting to turn a bit of a corner here. For me, he's never going to be good 5-on-5 defensively. That's not Tyson Barrie's game. But if he's moving the puck well, and if he's just not being an absolute liability in his own end, he can be a positive for this Oilers team. And what I saw against Carolina was exactly that. There was 5 or 6 times where he made really good, sharp, crisp outlet passes. He wasn't consistently losing his man in his own end. And, the power play will come when the rest of the team picks it up. But if Tyson Barrie can just be a 0 for you in your own end and not a negative, and his puck moving is a positive, then he'll fill a role in this lineup, and I'll deal with him a little bit more. But no, he should not be a forward. To answer the question.
Tell us how you really feel, Tyler. Tyler's thought about this. He's passionate about this. He's got the emotions going. I even think I saw you shed a tear.
Yeah, I'm very fired up when talking about Tyson Barrie.
I love it. All right. Are there any more comments in your section? None in mine?
No, I think we're good on Twitch as well. 5 o'clock start. These names. Why do I get tasked with looking at the Twitch? Because I got to try read these names.
I don't have
Technetium? There's
Sick.
no way I'm saying that right. Anyways, he says 5 o'clock is perfect. His 2-year-old will be excited to see it.
Oh, nice.
There you go. Hey?
All right. So the Oilers have to win for Technetti? 2-year-old.
How do you, come on. New rule, if you're going to comment on our Twitch chat, you need an easier to say
name. I can barely see. That's like size, that font size 1. So
Technetium, that's what we're going with.
All right,
Enjoy
the Oilers,
the game.
The Oilers play at 5 o'clock p.m. We'll see you guys next pregame show. This has been our Giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. That's Tyler. I'm Caroline. We'll see you guys on Twitter, and go Oilers, go.